All right, great. Well, let's dive in, ladies. What I think our listeners, viewers are dying to know right now, there's been so much talk about the post-COVID consumer, how the sales landscape has changed. Obviously, we have AI now, we have video tools. So we've got all of this change, massive change that's accelerating. I'd like to hear from you who are out there in the field every day. What do you see as the most significant trends or changes in the sales landscape today? And I would like to go ahead and start with Christina, if you could tell me.
I'm going to start qualitative because the biggest thing that I see right now is it's getting harder and harder for sales reps to navigate the buying landscape, the personas that should be involved, how to actually multi-thread and how to stand out. Inboxes are overwhelmed. LinkedIn messages are overwhelmed. There's a lot of different tactics as to how to get through, but it's so difficult not to be noise. And so I am finding most folks now versus what we saw before was the end of the funnel was a little bit harder, right? We were able to start conversations, have conversations, but a ton of deals are dropping off in the negotiation phase or post demo. But now just getting somebody into the sales funnel is unbelievably difficult and taking longer and longer and longer. Like we are seeing 30, 40, 50% higher rates of just the time it takes from I've initially got this lead or this account in my name to I'm actually able to set a meeting, and then whether or not that meeting holds and moves on. So early stage deals are totally lagging, and it's just very, very difficult to be able to make any kind of noise or sound or get the attention of buyers right now. And this is specifically really impacting early salespeople. If you're brand new to this and you don't have the experience of understanding how to start these conversations or what tactics to try, we're seeing a lot of people who are just getting into their careers as salespeople that feel like they're drowning because they just can't make any headway.
Yeah. And Christina, what do you coach sellers to do about that? What are some strategies that any team listening can employ?
First thing is what I'm finding now is you're going to have a very, very hard time tapping the economic buyer and getting them to respond to you directly. That's almost impossible right now. And I think a lot of reps are going right toward how do I get right to that economic buyer? And how do I get in their LinkedIn? How do I leave them a voicemail? How do I send them random swag in the mail? That's not the way to do it. The way to do it right now is creating a mass amount of champions that are willing to have conversations with you and using your internal champions to multi-thread up. Also, buying the way that buyers want to buy. Your sales process and how you want customers to move through your funnel right now is irrelevant. You have to meet buyers where they are, which means if a buyer enters your funnel and they want to see the product right away, you have to show them the product right away. You can't say, no, wait, before I show you the product, I got 15 questions for you. Like you have to find a way to say, okay, I'm going to show you the product, but I'm going to do discovery while I demo to get the information that I need and be responsible. So we have to be very agile and identify how does this buyer actually want to buy in my sales process. I have to put that to the side right now because I have to get them to a point where I can get them back on track. So you're always aiming to be the neck, but your customer has to be the head, right? You have to be able to follow them where they go. And so it's a three-pronged approach, right? You can tap the economic buyer and you can get familiarity with them, but until someone on their team says, hey, Christina from Speckit has been reaching out to me and we've had a couple conversations. This is actually really cool. I think you should lean in. That's how you get front of funnel action right now. So how many champions can you find? What can you send to them? Can you use video to your advantage? Selling with video is huge right now, right? When people email in and they're like, I'd love to see a demo of the product, send them a video of a customized demo where you research their company and you say real quick, here's what this could look like, right? Build a movie trailer that's going to elicit curiosity, make people lean in, and don't start selling until it's time to sell. You're selling the sizzle and the curiosity until it's actually time to sell the product.
Kristen, I am dying to hear your point of view on what new trends are happening now in sales, in the sales landscape, what has shifted, because I know you have a lot to say about that. So I'd love to hear your view on that.
To kind of echo and go a little deeper on, buyers being hard to reach, where buyers are placing more emphasis is Trust Radius did this study this year that talked about now 60% of buyers are placing emphasis on their own direct experience with your product or service, and that they're going to be far more likely to buy if they have used whatever you're selling in a past company. And so there's either tapping into that direct experience, or I think there's a couple of nuances to that you can use to kind of gain access. One is if there are other people in their company who have used you, you can kind of leverage other people's experience, or you can leverage what their direct competitor is doing with you, right? When Christina talked about selling the sizzle or sparking curiosity. People are always curious what other people in their space are doing. In the pre-call, you mentioned, you weren't necessarily interested in one certain product, but the sales rep said, hey, would you like to know what your direct competitors are doing? And you're like, wait a second. Yes, I would like to know, right? So these are ways that we can help buyers buy and buy the way they want to buy, which is their own experience, the experience of someone they know, or understanding what's happening in their landscape that they may not have access to, but that's the way we can help them, is by telling them, hey, this is what we're seeing with buyers like you.
We really need to help sellers today, not just have product conversations, but to have business conversations. And really, this takes a different type of seller, doesn't it? It takes somebody who's curious. It takes somebody who's strategic. We need to be able to get sellers need to be able to get on the phone with a customer or a Zoom or whatever the case may be, and to have that real business conversation. What are the trends that are happening right now? What are the implications to you? And what's the advice that I'm going to give you without maybe trying to sell you anything? That's being a trusted advisor, right? I need to have trust, but I also need to have advice, right? I'm going to flip into, and Reva, I want to start with you on this. What, in your opinion, are the top sales tactics that consistently lead to success?
Yeah, I think that a big one is preparation. Just selling MarTech and SaaS sales tech for the last 10 years. It used to be that, buyers didn't have a lot of access to information. And so they had to rely on a sales rep. Even if you were crappy, they still had to rely on you to buy what they wanted to buy. And so you could get away with not being very prepared and kind of being not on your best game because they had no other choice. But now there's so much choice. And so as a rep, if you really want to add value, which you need to do, you can't just go through the motions. You need to have done research. You need to be prepared in terms of having a perspective and opinion on what you think you can, shed light on that your buyer might not already be aware of. It's that type of thing that buyers are looking for. It's the little like, oh, I didn't look at it that way, or I didn't know that. And that only comes with putting the right amount of time in before a discovery call, before sending an email, before a demo. And that will never go out of style. And it can be made easier with AI and these tools that are coming out, but you still have to put the time and thought into being prepared to have a good, meaningful conversation every time you meet your buyer.
But what we need to do today is make sense of all of the information that they already have and teach them what they should be thinking about, what questions they should be asking, whether they buy from us or not, right? Is really one of those keys.
And to your point about helping them make sense of it, whether they buy from us or not. I think about whenever I take my car to the mechanic. There was this one particular mechanic in Austin that the reason I went to him is he would tell me the things I didn't need. Right. And so not only did I buy from them and go back to them, I referred all sorts of people from them to them. Right. So selling is, if you want to actually be successful, like sales is a long-term game, right? Like you have to build that equity and help people make sense, whether they buy from you right now or not. And I think also going back to your point about the business conversation, reps, the way you help people make sense is understanding the businesses and the industries that you sell into. And companies would be far better served to help reps have business conversations rather than product conversations. That would lead to long-term success for the rep and for the company.
Let's go to the seller. We've been talking a little bit about the enterprise. I want to now kind of pivot over to the seller. Reva, what are some common challenges salespeople face right now, and how can they overcome them?
I think one challenge salespeople face is there is this push and pull of volume, and then like the volume play and the knowledge that we need to be personalized and thoughtful. There, in my mind, the way I've interpreted this is we are going back to basics. You can't shortcut the real work that goes into having meaningful conversations and engagements with your customers. You just can't. And there's a lot of technology right now that makes marketers and sellers efficient at their jobs, but like, are we effective at it? And so I think a lot of sellers are getting a message from leadership saying, we're not hitting our numbers. You have to do more. You have to know a time and place when to push back, and you have to have the data to say that doesn't work. But we aren't all in these positions where we can push back on our leadership. Like right now, more than ever, I think people are like, I want to keep my employment. I want to, I'm not doing so great. The economy's hard. So you might not have that confidence to push back, but we know our customers don't want that volume. And we can't do our jobs right with that volume. But it's really the total opposite of what a lot of leadership is asking to do right now. So that's a huge challenge for sellers.
Christina, I would love to hear from you. Could you tell us about the toughest sale you've ever gotten and what you learned from it?
Hardest sale, I've had so many heartbreaks. I still to this day remember deals from 12 years ago that my team lost. And when I see a logo of that company, I'm like, oh, it burns you forever, no matter what. I would say I'm going to go with a theme that's really, really difficult and hard to get past that you can, but it's going to knock you on your butt. It's going to make deals slip into the following quarter. You're going to get a lot of pressure from your exec leadership. And it's when, let's say that you're working in the mid-market to the enterprise, right? And you have the right people involved in the deal and it's moving along smoothly. Everybody loves the demo. Everybody loves the product. They're talking about how they're going to use it. Great news. They've got budget approved and they want to spend it with you. This is phenomenal. So you're doing your diligence. You're bringing people in. And then you bring in that one person that says, this is kind of similar to this other tool that I used at a different organization. We should look at that tool too. And so here you are, 6 months into working this monster deal. You have it forecasted. You've already spent that commission money in your head. Instead of buying this outright, we still totally want to buy. We need to pilot this for a little bit. That's our new motion. Let's pilot this. Let's do a POC. What does that look like? And from there, this is the point of whether you're going to lose the deal or gain the deal. Because one, if they're piloting with you, they're putting you through sort of like an RFP type process now at this point, right? Which you were not expecting. You did your entire job. So now suddenly another competitor is entering the landscape. You haven't sold competitively against that competitor because they haven't been a part of it. And now you have to figure out terms for the pilot and who's going to be involved. And is it going to be a paid pilot? And what are the metrics we're going to use to measure that? And what
this is so painful just hearing this, Christina. How many of our viewers are just living this pain right now?
Big thing I will say to bring it up. It's happening to you right now, Christy. Exactly. I mean, and this is what we are seeing not only in enterprise, but what surprised me the most is now I'm seeing it in mid-market. I'm seeing it in SMB. I'm having SMB customers say, we have everything approved. You're good. You're good to go. We just got to pilot this. And it gets very, very dangerous because there was a recent deal that we lost because we had all the criteria for the pilot set. We started the pilot and a random person came into the pilot and said, I don't love that we're measuring this. We should be measuring this. And it ultimately killed the deal because we didn't have in place what we needed to. And more people kept on getting involved. So biggest thing is one, identify that people are wanting to buy with pilots and POCs. Ask really, really early on in the deal how they buy anything, not just your product. How do you buy anything? Talk to me about the last piece of technology or tool that you purchased. What was the process? Who was involved? What surprised you internally? Did anything about buying that tech or tool surprise you internally? And what should we be prepared for in order to do that? Also start talking about metrics very, very early. Your customers do not know how to measure your tool. A lot of times your customers don't know how to measure their own problems. They don't know how to look at it under the lens that you are trying to, and you have to educate them on, hey, you have X problem. Here's how you can actually measure a solution, right? You have to train your customers because they're not going to come to you and say, I don't know how to solve this. I don't know how to measure it. I don't know what it looks like. They're not going to say that. So you just have to take on that advisory role and actually teach them and help them and ask the tough questions early. I say be a little truffle pig and try to find the no before it's a yes, right? Try to think of every reason why that customer shouldn't buy your product, right? I'm going to find the no before I find the yes. And the last thing that I will say is you will be caught off guard. You are going to have deals that drop out and it's no fault of yours and you're going to wear it and it's going to be painful. But these things happen. They've happened to all of us. The best salespeople in the world have lost mega deals and had to wear that. So all you can say is, did I do everything within my power and control and sphere of influence in order to make sure that this was not the outcome? You can control the answer to that. Anything outside of that, you can't control and it's okay.
And I'd like Kristen and Reva to answer this. What key performance indicators should sales teams be monitoring?
When I think about a KPI that means that is meaningful to me as a seller, it's we call them internally a high impact meeting. So having a meeting with it'll depend if you're SMB, mid-market, enterprise. I'm enterprise, so director plus, with a director plus person, where you talked about something that was like North Star initiatives, key metrics for the business. It's really digging into initiatives you can align to and having that meeting with someone who likely has some say or influence or even decision making in the deal. And so having a sufficient number of those conversations a week, a month is something that keeps me on the right track as a seller.
What strategies do you employ for training and developing your sales team?
I think about it is similar to share to one of your points, which is how anyone learns is not by having information spoon-fed to them, but by forcing them to struggle with it a little bit. And what that can mean is just helping them. Here is the concept. Now let's take some time in this learning time to apply what it is that we just learned. How will you take this information so folks can do it with this webinar instead of just sitting on this webinar and thinking, oh, this is a great idea. Take your notes and find one deal that one of these things that we've talked about applies to. Maybe it's Christina's point about running a POV. Maybe it's Reva's point about preparation. But find one deal that you can apply this to and then go do it, because in your working through that application, you are going to learn it, and you won't just know it for the one deal it helps. You're going to know it. It's going to be cemented in your brain after that.
All right, Christina, give me a 90 seconds.
Okay, because it's only 90 seconds, I'm going to focus on onboarding. And first I'm going to talk about what's broken with onboarding. And it's not what everybody thinks that it is. Everybody attacks onboarding and says, oh, it's the 2 weeks of classroom where you're learning everything and you're taking in, the water hose and you don't know what you're doing. And it's there. Every company needs that initial 2 weeks of onboarding where you're learning about the company, you're learning about the product, you're learning about the people that you solve, you're handling your HR documentation, you are meeting people. Like, you need that 2-week deep dive. The problem is after that, you go sit down at your desk and you go, I have no idea how to actually do my job. I just learned a lot of things, but today I'm supposed to either pick up the phone or send an email or go into my CRM and disposition something some way. And I have no idea how to do that. And the reality is the forgetting curve is very, very real, right? We are going to forget 80% of what we learned within 24 hours. And that is consistent. It doesn't matter how many times you hear it, unless you hear something and then within 24 hours, go do it. You forget that. And so the answer isn't just memorize everything, right? The answer isn't memorize everything. I remember when I was in grade school, one of my teachers said, you can't use a calculator on your calculus test because you're not going to have a calculator in your pocket as an adult. So you have to memorize it. And they were wrong. We all have calculators in our pocket, right? So it's not about memorize what you have to do and spit it out. It's how do we get the learning that you need in front of you at the time that you need it, bite-sized and without distraction.
So let's start with you, Reva. I'd love to hear, you're doing so much great work at Vidyard. Again, videos changed my lives, and I think the lives of many people on this call. But what do you see as the future of sales, and how do we prepare for that?
Yeah, I might go pretty niche here. It's not like the overall future, but I will say one thing is we've traditionally in sales put a lot of stock into being live, in person or live on a Zoom. I need your time right now. And like you said, we don't have the attention. Our buyers might be on the Zoom, but they're texting and working on deals on their own, right? I think we need to marry the asynchronous connections and the work we do behind the scenes and put more merit into that than just the live calls. I've had countless deals where I've moved the ball forward overnight. Time zones, it might be a video, it might be an email. It's just making it easier for your buyer. They don't need to always be on a call with you. I think that's a control tactic of ours. And we need to that's the preparation and the confidence in our ability to do this and our the knowledge we're bringing. It's not the control of being live on a call. You need to be able to do things asynchronously too.
I think the future of sales is what we talked about earlier, which is being able to exist in a world where agility is king. It's being able to live in a world where we have the resources that we need to pivot very, very quickly. And we have the learning that we need at our fingertips when we need it to do the job. And it's open to the fact that your set, cemented sales process or methodology doesn't have to be the thing. We have to learn how to talk and sell to human beings again. And we have to try new things, and we have to celebrate that. We have to not be afraid to get things wrong, because in doing that, we'll figure out what is actually right. And so I think the rigidity that we've seen so far in terms of sales, and this is the playbook, right? Like the old sales playbook is real dusty, and it's okay to take what works from that and say, this works, but the rest of this doesn't. And that's really uncomfortable, but we're going to celebrate that. So I say celebrate the ambiguity, and celebrate every single little win that you possibly can, because they are all important.
Tied into what we've been talking about, which is aligning our sales processes wherever we are with the way our buyers want to buy, not trying to force them through our funnel, through our sales stages, through what we think they need to do, but really studying our buyers, right? Because if you think about what we experience just individually, all the cookies on our phones are so personal to us and what we're looking at, right? That thing that you looked at 2 days ago follows you around online. It's very personal to you, right? And we have, on the B2C side, we expect a very high level of personalization, and that bleeds over into how we buy everything. And so we are seeing that high level of expectation with teams, with B2B teams. And I think the closer that we can align as sellers, and hopefully as organizations, with the way people want to buy, the more successful we're going to be.
Have a great week. Again, thank you to these ladies, to Vidyard and Fast Forward, and make it a great week. I'm Sherry Leviton saying thank you.